Let me get set up here to record, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Laura, can you make me a co-host? Let's see. Perfect. It wouldn't let me record. Okay. All right. Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome back to VCE AG Today. This morning is October the 7th, 2021. Pleased to have with us this morning two great extension specialists, Dr. Rahman from West Virginia Extension Service and Dr. Jayesh Samtani from Virginia Cooperative Extension Service. And our topic of discussion this morning is post-plant management for strawberry production, and going to be talking a little bit about disease management as well as fall and winter management for strawberry production. So we're pleased to have both of those specialists with us this morning. As usual, for anybody that may be with us, if you have questions, please hold those to the end of the presentation. We'll be happy to address those at the end. Please remain muted if possible, so we have as little background noise and disruption as possible. And then also the meeting will be recorded this morning for folks that weren't able to join us live. We will post this recording to our VCE AG Today YouTube playlist. So again, appreciate those folks that may be tuning in with us this morning via Facebook Live or some of the other access points to our program. And without further ado, we'll go ahead and turn it over to Dr. Rahman and have his presentation on post-plant strawberry disease management in fall and winter. So Dr. Rahman, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thanks for the introduction. I hope many of the growers already planted their strawberries, and if not, maybe in the process of planting. So this meeting is very, very timely. I have been involved with the strawberry disease management research for a long time, and after moving to West Virginia, actually, I paused a little bit, but again, back to the game. Now I am doing lots of strawberry work. So for disease management, first of all, we are really concerned about more of the diseases that can come with the transplants. Some of the diseases, anthracnose, in most cases, they can come with the transplants, and two different types, fruit rot and crown rot type, and Phytophthora crown rot. So Phytophthora crown rot, I am not 100% sure that it always comes with the transplant, but in some cases it can. But as you know, it's a soil-borne disease. It can survive in your soil, especially in the form of ooze spore, for many, many years. If you are not rotating for a longer time, it can be there. And a new problem we have been having for the last couple of years, Pestalotiopsis, and always bacterial angular leaf spot and some common leaf spot or scores can also come with the plants. So I'll mostly focus on anthracnose and Phytophthora because other diseases, although they are there, but like not too destructive in most cases. So like I said, there are two different types of anthracnose. One we call ripe root rot or black spot. Although we are planting, but we need to think about this can happen down the road in the spring when you will be harvesting strawberries. So black spot caused by Coledotricum acutatum. That's another one species of Coledotricum. Symptoms can appear as whitish, water-soaked lesion. That's the initial symptom. And eventually, especially if it's not too much moist, you will see this kind of sunken black areas on the fruit. And under moist condition, it produces lots and lots of spores that becomes salmon color, and you do not see that kind of sunken areas in that situation, but still is anthracnose fruit rot. And the other type is called crown rot, that basically that one Coleotrichum gliosporoides from the leaves, it moves to the crown, and then it causes the crown death and discoloration. So but you will see the symptom when your plants above ground plant parts or foliar collapse, you see. Then you will have to suspect two different things maybe happening. Either Coleotrichum caused crown rot or Phytophthora crown rot. So I'll show you briefly how we differentiate these two for your own diagnostic purpose. So in case of Coleotrichum crown rot, you will see this reddish kind of marbly discoloration. In all cases, I strongly suggest you, if you see something, just take a sample, dig the plant, take off the soil, and then try to clean it. If you can, just wash it a little bit, and then take a longitudinal cut to see what is happening with the crown. In many cases, plants are collapsing, but crown is perfectly white, and then maybe something else that will give you some indication. Few other symptoms you will see. So these are the photos I took, especially these two under inoculated conditions. So that means we intentionally introduced the disease-causing organism. So that's why it caused very high disease pressure. In this case, you will see the runners will also be affected, and also the petioles. For anthracnose crown fruit rot, in some cases it can go to the crown, but in that case, crown will be black, not that marbly orangish red. Okay, and in some cases, if you are lucky and the disease pressure is too high, that means lots of inoculum on your plant, you might see these kind of black irregular lesions on leaf. So take a very closer look on your plants, on the leaves, if you see anything. So this is something, once again, under the mist, when flag producers will be growing flags. If lots of inoculum, you will see these sunken areas, black sunken areas on the petioles. So if you see something, I will not say 100% of the times it's anthracnose. Just take a few steps. Cut this petiole or run or whatever it is. You see the symptom like this. Put it in a zipped up plastic bag with some moist paper towel. Within 3 or 4 days, you will see this kind of acervular growth on it. Salmon color or peach color growth, that will be an indication. So once again, these are microbes, these are still very, very small. So you may want to use 15 or 20x hand lens, whatever you can make available. So I just briefly to tell you that you probably know what's the strawberries plant supply looks like and where you get the plants. Nursery growers obviously grow the tips or bare root plants for flag producers, especially tips going to the flag producers, and they produce your flags, and you buy the flags from them to grow in the fruiting field. In case of bare root plants, you can directly buy from the nursery. So in any case, these are clonal propagation. That means, it's exactly the clone and vegetative propagation. So if there is a disease situation, it can keep coming with the plants. It multiplies there, and then it goes on the new plant, and then it keeps coming back to the, it's a huge bad cycle, So why you should be concerned about diseases at this time? Because once again, as I said, many of these infections can come on the plants, but these are latent infections. These are hidden, you don't see it. once again, if you are lucky enough, you might see some symptom burst in most cases. These are symptomless at this time, especially under low inoculum pressure. The disease symptom will show up under favorable weather condition only, or when plants are matured, or you will be harvesting fruits, or in the spring when you will see the bloom. So, like I said, in some cases when flag producers grow their flags under the mist like this, in that case, some disease symptom might show up. So these are the points I wanted to make. Multiple and longer plant multiplication in a nursery grower. They want to multiply their plants to make it their livelihood. So those pathogens, especially anthracnose causing ones, can come from the surrounding environment. The anthracnose has a huge host range. So there are many hosts. And if the growers, nursery growers, and even flag plant producers are not maintaining enough space, it can come with the rain splash, especially from the surrounding forested areas or other vegetation. But in general, flag production phase is relatively short. That's why you should not, and we do not blame flag producers all the time. So the origin may be in the nurseries. That's why we are working on a share-funded project. Jayesh is part of it, and also we have a collaborator in the University of Maine. We are trying to give some understanding to the flag producers that the tips they are getting from the nursery, those are healthy. They do not have any latent infection. And the plants they are supplying to the fruit growers, those are healthy. They are not infected with anthracnose. This is very challenging. It's, as I said, it's not showing any symptom, but there are few options. We can grow them out by taking leaf samples, and we are helping flag producers by doing that. So some of the methods we are using at this time, gramoxone protocol, that means you take the leaf samples with the petioles, use a surface sterilize it. That means with 10% bleach and 70% ethanol, you just clean the surface and then rinse in water, then dip it in gramoxone, incubate inside a plastic bag with moist paper towel. That should do it. So within few days, 5 or 6 days, you should see if they're infected, you should see that kind of growth, salmon or peach color growth that you can see under 15 to 20x hand length. So this is not the only protocol has been used for this. Freezing, like if you put the samples in a freezer, that will basically kill the tissues, and then you do the same incubation, you see that kind of growth. So it can be challenging, it needs a lab setup, but in some cases, if you are curious enough, I think you can do that. That's the growth I have been talking about. This photo was taken under 40x, 40 times magnification. So when you are at the, your plants are at the blossom stage, and you see this blossom blight, and you see on the green fruit those black lesions showing up. When you see this is really kind of will catch you off guard, and that's not a good time to decide what to do at this point, it's kind of late. That's why we are kind of trying to give growers a sense, that those plants you planted in your fruiting field, those are disease-free or not. So how that will help you? If they have latent infection, at the least what you will have to do, you have to go with your spray program, preferably early in the season when plants just start growing in the early spring. That's the time. And we did some research on that. And if you apply right chemicals at the right time, you can actually bring down the level of latent infections. So very quickly, Phytophthora crown rot, as you can see, when Phytophthora infect the crowns, obviously through the root system, it makes the crown kind of dull brown color. So there is a difference here. And I'll show you in the next slide how to differentiate anthracnose crown rot and Phytophthora crown rot. So just to mention you, if you suspect, actually that has become a standard for many growers in North Carolina and in the some of the Southeast, that after planting, they apply Ridomil through the drip. So I do not recommend you to apply right away, because at that time your root system is not absorptive, you know, like they cannot uptake enough water and probably the fungicide products at that time. But if you really suspect you have Phytophthora, you have other options. You can make foliar application of phosphite salts or alliate. You know, these products are really, really nice because we call them MP mobile. MP mobile means if you apply them in the root, it will go up. If you apply on the foliage, it will go down. So it can move both up and down. So that's why we normally get very good control with these products. So here, just to give you a good sense, idea what when you see a plant collapsed and you collected the crown sample and then you took the longitudinal cut, you'll see the difference, but it's not 100%. So that's why if you are not seeing, kind of colorful discoloration, in the crown, you may have to suspect it's Phytophthora. Then we have the positive test we can take with Phytophthora immunostrip test that you can buy from Agdia. In case you do not see any discoloration, you have to suspect other causes like abiotic causes, in some cases high salt in the soil, boron toxicity, and if you have planted them very deep. But other part of this slide you cannot do it. It definitely needs a high power microscope and lab facilities. Okay, so very quickly, the new disease we have been seeing on strawberry transplants from some suppliers. This has been a new thing, and you will see the symptom on foliage, especially on leaves. Eventually, it can go on the fruit, but on leaves, you will see kind of scorch kind of symptom that can kill actually the whole plant. So you'll see all the foliage will be drying up. And if, once again, like if you use a hand lens, you might be able to see this kind of fungal fruiting body, what we call pycnidia. We had some growers had infected plants last year, and I recommended them to apply switch and Thyram, and also many of them actually did remove the highly infected leaves in the fall and early spring, and at the end they actually did very well. So I'm not very, like I do not give you any kind of bad sense that it's a very deadly disease. It's not. We can still control it. So in 2021, I did a fungicide efficacy trial. And here you can see, surprisingly, I got the best control because this is an inoculated trial. So you can see in the non-treated, the percentage of anthracnose fruit rot was very, very high. And one organic treatment, that did not work because this was very high disease pressure, but all the chemicals I used, they could significantly reduce the anthracnose fruit rot, switch and Maribon, Cabrio being the best. So, Pristine has one ingredient that is in Cabrio. So Pristine still is a very good product if you do not have any resistance development against QOIs. So for talking about resistance, how it happens, why you need to rotate chemistries, because you can see one resistant fungal spore that normally mutates under high selection pressure if you are using the same product again and again, even if it's from the QOI group. That one, when you apply the same product, your sensitive ones keep dying, but your resistant one keep multiplying, and then that one dominates at the end. Again, here you can see the same thing happening. Those two black ones, they are resistant. They are not, we cannot kill them by using the same product. So they keep multiplying at the end. Those resistant spores are the ones dominating, and you will see the complete failure from using that product. That's why if you are seeing your products are not working in a situation like this, please try to consult with your extension pathologist or someone that will recommend you a product from a different group. But switch remain a very good product because that can also control your botrytis gray mold. So I feel very good about recommending you that to keep that product in your possession, like in the spring, if you need it. So I think that's all I have. I can stop sharing my screen right now, and I'll be here if you have any questions.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Rahman. Appreciate you being here and the great information presentation this morning. Dr. Samtani, if you want to go ahead and share your presentation or any comments that you may have, we'll go ahead and do that, and then we'll open it up at the end for any questions.
Yeah, I'm just starting to share right now. Just give me a minute. Okay, do you guys see my screen okay?
Perfect, Jayesh.
Okay, good morning, everyone, and thank you for taking the time to attend the meeting here. I know for those of you who are commercial growers, it's a busy time of the day, and appreciate you taking the time to listen to us. I also would like to thank Dr. Rahman, who's at West Virginia University, who readily agreed to give a talk for the growers here, mainly in Virginia, but maybe there are some of you outside the state as well. So I'm going to talk about some of the other things that Stephanie Romelchek wanted me to talk, mainly about row cover application. But due to time constraints, I'm just going to focus on the potential of using row cover in the fall and the winter season. I won't really talk about row cover use in the spring during flower and fruit. I hope that we can touch upon that topic again during the Mid-Atlantic Berry Program in February, when we get closer to the flowering and fruiting of the strawberry plants. And then I'll run down through some of the other items that I may not necessarily talk in detail, but just for the growers, to remind them about some of the things that you need to keep in mind for this time of the year. So I'm trying to advance my slides here. Let's see here. Okay, so most of you are probably through this. I know some of our growers here in Southeast Virginia by the coast are still in the process of planting. You know, there have been some delays with receiving pluck plant material this year for a lot of the growers. And, you know, we heard about some of the ongoing problems with the nurseries. So I would say mostly on target, maybe a few days late in terms of meeting our timeline. But I would say, you know, with climate change and increasing temperatures, maybe it may be irrelevant at this point in time of the strawberry production cycle. So we're going to focus on the annual hill plasticulture as I run through the presentation. So really, when you think about using row covers, you know, we have to talk about growing degree days. And there has been one study done at North Carolina State University a few years ago, led by Jeremy Pattison, where he indicated the importance of growing degree days in context of strawberry production. So when you think about growing degree day, it is a common term used for a lot of crop cycles, and it is the heat units accrued over the given time of the production. So for strawberry, the growing degree day base temperature is 50 °F, which means that the crop really needs a temperature of 50 or above it in order to show growth. And when we are thinking about the fall production with the annual hill plasticulture production, we are thinking about the ability of the plant to establish itself on the raised bed, and then also to be able to produce branched crowns. And we hope that by late fall and in December, the plant would have 1 to 2 side crowns in addition to the main crown.
Jayesh, pardon me, your slides are not advancing, at least on my end.
Okay, I don't know why it's doing that, because I can move it here. Let's see.
You may want to try to exit out and then go back and see if that helps.
Yeah, let me see here. How about now?
It's not showing up yet.
No? I don't know why it's doing that. Because I can advance it. So I've done screen share and I started advancing, but I don't know why it's not doing that. How about now?
No, it just says you've started screen sharing, but it's just a blank screen.
Now?
Nope, still the same thing. You might want to exit out, Jayesh, and just go through the presentation in working mode through PowerPoint.
Okay, so you mean I should leave and then rejoin? Is that what you're suggesting?
No, I think if you stop screen sharing and then just screen share in your work mode in PowerPoint, that may work.
Yeah, let's see. Now?
No, it still just says that you've started screen sharing, but it doesn't have the actual presentation.
That's weird. Let's see. Let me try one other thing here.
Jayesh, if you need to, if you can email me your presentation, I can try to pull it up and just advance the slides as you speak, if that would be helpful. I think he may have exited out and then is going to come back with us. See if that will work.
Technology is a beautiful thing as long as it works.
That's exactly right. Jayesh, we could see some of your slides just a second ago when you pulled up PowerPoint. All right, perfect, Jayesh. Now we can see those.
Thank you, Robbie, and sorry about the hiccup here. I don't know what was different this time, but can you see my slides now advancing?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I will just leave it as is. Probably don't try to blow it up. That way we can make sure we progress through it. So just I showed a slide on, the transplanting, and I talked about it and talked about growing degree days. And this is the formula really for growing degree day. It's pretty simple. It's the amount of heat units accrued. So in order to really understand that, we have to keep the base temperature in mind. So as an example, like if let's say today's high would be 62 and the low would be 42, you take the mean and then you have a mean of 52. So you've accrued 2 degree units on this day as an example. So the previous research that they did at North Carolina State University, they understood, the researchers understood that Chandler requires about 650 growing degree days in the fall, and Camarosa requires about 800 growing degree days. So if you look at Camarosa, it is requiring more degree day units in the fall, which is one of the reasons why people up in the mountains cannot grow it as easily as Chandler, because Chandler has less growing degree day requirements, so it can be more easily grown in colder climates. So it's got more wider adaptation, and which is why it also remains one of the more popular varieties to date. So growers can consult their climate data source, and then some of the sources I've listed the National Weather Service over here. If you open it up, it can give you your forecast for the coming few days, and that's helpful because in order to really use row cover application in the fall, you have to understand what kind of forecast you are going to, or what kind of a weather you will be foreseeing in the coming few days. And I think that's a pretty good site, National Weather Service. I won't open it up right now, but you can go to it and then type in your location by zip code, and then you can see the forecast. It gives you the high, the predicted high, and the predicted low. So the floating row covers have been used not just in strawberry, but also in a couple of other vegetable crops. And when we think about strawberry, the main use is to promote branch crown development in the fall season, protect from cold temperatures and wind in the winter season. And then it also helps with protecting the flowers and maybe advancing the crop in the spring season. So we're going to focus mainly on potential fall applications. And I say potential because depending on the situation, a lot of growers might not think that the row cover is best use of their time and when it comes to fall application. So really every grower will have to kind of really evaluate and see whether or not there is any merit to putting down the row covers in the fall, because it does take labor to put that material down. So if you think about floating row cover, what it is basically made up of spun bound or woven plastic, primarily made up of polyester or polypropylene material. The row cover that I have used and I'm quite familiar and happy with is the GrowGuard UV, which means that it has UV protection, and it is by Atmore Industries. The seams are glued, and some of the row covers have sewn kind of fabrics where the joints are sewed up, but in this case they are glued. And we talked about some of the benefits in regard to crop advancement, but also the row covers can be used to exclude certain pests. And when we talk about crop advancement, one way in which the row cover is helping the crop is by retaining the heat in the microclimate in which the crop is growing. So heat retention is another role of row cover. This is how the growers typically lay it out. For those of you who've been growing strawberries for many years, you kind of know the trick. You set it out in between the two raised beds, and you add some weight. In this case, you can see rock bags in the photo, and you use it when you need to use it, depending on the situation. And the situation would be depending on where you are located. The growers in the mountains would be using it a lot more than those in the Piedmont and the coastal areas of Virginia. So I pulled this out from Berry Hill Irrigation, and they sell row covers, the Atmore ones, and they do come in different weights. And depending on the use of the row cover, you might want to select a particular weight of the row cover. The ones that we are talking about for the fall, you want the plant to get some light because it's still growing and establishing, and the fall, you want to take advantage of the fall sunlight. So you want to use a lightweight row cover to advance that crop. And really the best time to start then application of the row cover in the fall would be kind of looking at your future temperatures, and then see when you are going to hover around in the range of anywhere between 47 high of 47 to high of 58, and then see if you have any advantage of kind of using the row cover to perhaps increase the temperature in the microclimate in which the strawberry is growing. So if you think about a lightweight row cover, it is, as the term suggests, it's not as thick as some of the more heavyweight. So it can only protect up to a 27°F, which is probably fine in the fall and in the winter, because the strawberries, well, especially the winter, I'm saying, especially in the coastal areas, maybe in the mountains, you might need more of a medium weight or a heavy weight row cover in the winter season. But strawberries, when you're thinking about the strawberry crown, it is fairly cold tolerant, and it can take temperatures in the low teens, air temperatures in the low teens. So if you think about fall applications, we don't get into the low teens here in the fall. So a lightweight row cover works perfectly fine, and in fact is recommended for using in the fall season. Just want to show you kind of a snapshot of how a lightweight row cover might look. You can see a lot more of the plant when it is applied. This is of course inside the high tunnel, but you can still see through the plant after putting down the lightweight row cover. That may not be the case with a medium weight row cover. It's a lot thicker, so it does not allow as much light to transmit through. So if you look at the light transmission capacity of some of the medium weight row covers, it's 60% light, And what I have with me in stock here is a 1.2 ounce medium weight row cover for winter protection. And I also have some lightweight row covers, which I don't really use it in the fall, but we may occasionally use it in the winter time to add on an extra layer to the medium weight. On top of the medium weight, we would add a lightweight row cover to kind of add extra protection in the winter time. And that's been, very rare in the coastal areas. Now, if you're up in the mountains, you may have a different strategy. Perhaps as a grower, you may want to think about investing into a heavyweight row cover for winter protection. So just an overview, the use of fall row covers can increase plant growth and can compensate for late planting. So that is one reason why you would want to use it in the fall, is if the planting gets delayed for over 2 weeks, you are running late, you haven't met your timeline. And I would say probably more this year, looking at the plant material that I have received at my end, some of the plug plants are not quite as established when I got them from the nursery. So ideally, the nursery should have kept them a week or 10 days longer before shipping it out to us. But in order to meet the customer timeline, they've shipped it out when in fact some of the plug plants are not quite ready. And we have gone ahead and planted those, but we're going to watch and see if they are running behind. And if they do, then that's kind of where I think that the use of fall row cover may be more kind of beneficial and justifiable, because it does take labor to put that down. So we just have to kind of weigh it down. So we touched a little bit about the winter season, and the strawberry crowns, when we approach winter, they sort of go semi-dormant. They don't actively grow at that point. So it is okay if you are in the mountains and you decide that you want to cover your plants and keep them secured throughout the winter. And maybe the upper Piedmont growers might think the same. You want to place your row covers and leave them on until spring. But if you are down where I am by the coast or in the lower Piedmont, you probably don't want the row covers to stay on for the rest of the winter, because you're increasing the temperature in the microclimate, and the plants may not get very well acclimated to the cold environment. So that may be one reason why you would not want to keep. And then you don't want to advance the plant also too far ahead, because when you hit spring, then you kind of have to go through those temperature fluctuations during the spring season, and that you don't want an early crop and having to deal with excessive frost protection for your blooms and fruits. So some of the challenges that come with row cover application: if you have unseasonal warm temperature during row cover treatment, and then those are followed by colder temperatures, the plants may not acclimatize as well. The other thing that we have seen is some of the growers forget that they have plants underneath the row cover, and spider mite population can build up, especially in a variety like Albion, which is very susceptible to spider mites. So you do have to periodically check underneath your row covers to make sure that you are free of diseases and insects, because the humidity can also build up, and if you get rainfall, there's not enough sunlight reaching underneath the row cover, you can get some diseases that thrive under moist conditions. In the fall, you could get a potential powdery mildew incident in the fall with the use of row cover, and that may be something that may not be desirable. And then also with increasing temperatures, you have more weed growth. If you have seeded ryegrass, you probably also have a lot of ryegrass growth because of the addition of row cover. So there's pros and cons that come with row cover application. And then when you're thinking about winter, one thing I want to kind of touch upon is there may be two kind of freezes that we are thinking about, radiation freeze, and more so going into, spring, transitioning from winter into spring. We have the radiation freeze and the advective freeze. With the advective freeze, we have we have low temperatures, and those are oftentimes accompanied by high winds. So especially when the plant is getting into the flower and the fruiting stage, you don't want to leave row covers on there because the constant presence of the wind can batter the row cover on the plant and can cause more damage than you would like. Now with the radiation freeze, if you're up in the mountains and the Piedmonts and occasionally by the coast, you may have to supplement your row covers with irrigation. And that's the case where you have to kind of watch on what specific plant growth stage you're at, and then what weight of the row cover you're using, and what would be the temperature under the row cover at that point in time. So having a weather station around your farm is also going to be very important when you think about row cover and winter protection, and then going into spring. Some of the other items that you would want to consider as a grower is you want to protect your plants and plastic from deer, and you want to do that early on so the deer does not get habituated to visiting your site. So now is a good time, if you have deer issue, to think about fencing for deer protection to keep your plants safe. I've seen some invasion of deer in plots in the Piedmont in February, occasional browsing on the leaves. And if you want to avoid any of that, you want to try to keep the deer out early on. The strawberry IPM guide is a great resource to kind of really see what kind of chemicals are recommended for the southern region. And you may want to click on this link and visit it, and then see if you have some of the chemicals that you need to keep your pests under check. Hand pulling in the planting holes is important, especially early on. Your plants are a lot younger. And if you see some big weeds competing with your strawberry plants, it might be worth your effort to go hand pull those weeds out. Something like vetch, we see it every year in Virginia. So you can probably expect on your site that you might see a vetch competing with your plant, and it's best to hand pull those weeds out. For broadleaf weed control in row middles where you have ryegrass, you have some options to apply some herbicide like AIM, but you want to be careful because the strawberry is also broadleaf, so you have to shield your spray so it does not get on the strawberry plant. In regards to grass control, that's a lot easier to achieve in the planting hole because you have some grass-only herbicides like Post or Arrow, and you can think about using those if you have a lot of grass issue, especially competing directly in the strawberry plant. And again, the IPM guide is a great resource. I would encourage you all to have a copy of that. We get a lot of questions about runner removal, and my personal philosophy is that you typically don't want to disturb the plant right after transplanting. Let it establish itself for the next few weeks, and really if the runner becomes excessive, the runner production becomes excessive, then you want to then think about hand removal of those runners, and use scissors when you remove the runners because you get a cleaner cut, and it doesn't cause stress on the main mother plant. Also, social media is becoming more and more prominent for marketing. So think about farm presence on social media. And even though this may not be an active time of the year in regards to picking, you may want to start promoting your farm just by posting occasional photos of your crop, just so people keep you in mind and they know where to look for you in social media when it's time to harvest. And then we have some good meetings coming up from Extension, so you can think about attending those during the winter and early spring. So finally, I am on Facebook and Twitter in case you would like to follow updates from my program. You can look me up on VT Berry Bites and follow some of the activities that we do as part of Extension. So with that, I will close my presentation here. Thank you, and we'll take any questions at this time.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Samtani. Appreciate you joining us and sharing great information on some fall and winter strawberry production management, particularly with row covers. So we'll go ahead and open it up for questions. Laura, I don't know if you can monitor Facebook, if anyone has questions that are live on Facebook or not. But if anybody's joining us via Zoom, if you have any questions, please go ahead and unmute yourself or enter those into the chat window. We'd be happy to get those addressed for you. If you do need some help unmuting, just if you would click the microphone in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, it should take away the red dash across the microphone. You should be able to speak. So any questions at this time for Dr. Rahman or Dr. Samtani? Well, two great presentations. I think y'all covered everything so thoroughly. People don't have questions. Laura, anything on your end from Facebook for questions?
No questions on Facebook.
Okay. All right. Well, without hearing anything,